Well, today's episode is going to be a little interesting for everyone. So, today we're going to be reviewing two events by GCW, Holy Smokes and Ransom. So, these are two back to back events at Atlantic City at the Showboat. Of course, we're going to have championship matches and sort of special matches we definitely going to be enjoying. And of course, we got more with New Japan Pro Wrestling as we continue with more second round matches in the New Japan Cup. The obvious thing is who will be advancing. We'll find out. But also, we got some matches involving an AEW Dark Elevation. And then finally, we'll be doing some news updates, some interesting developments with NOMADS announcing the card for their upcoming event at the Freelance Summit on April 14th, and many other things. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So let's begin with GCW's first show of that particular weekend on the 4th of March. Holy smokes. Now it opened up with a six-way scramble match. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, you guys never heard of a scramble match, it's because you have multiple people involved. In this particular one, we have six. Now, here's who we have. We got Jimmy Lloyd versus Shane Mercer versus Carlos Romo versus Alec Price versus Grim Reaper versus Gringo Loco. Now, in these type of matches, things could go either way. It doesn't matter who most particularly win, but it's all about who will take the advantage of the win. So this one, in the other hand, it ended in with Gringo Loco when he applied the Gringo bomb onto Carlos Ramos to pick up the win. Now our next match is a title match. I think this is the second or third defense. No, the second defense by JCW champion Jordan Oliver, who won this title about a month ago during the J Cup, the Jersey J Cup, and he already defended it once against Lawrence Warner, where he of course retained it, but now he's facing against the Android and someone from the LA Dojo, Alex Collin. I thought this match was pretty good. You know, one of those matches where Jordan Oliver has to step up, knowing that he's facing a guy who's been trained extensively by Katsuyori Shibata. You probably thought this was going to go that he was going to apply the Cloud Cutter in a way to end the match. No, now if you guys are fans of New Japan Pro Wrestling, you always see the young lions always end up in the Boston Crab, and I think Jordan Oliver might have had the idea of using that against Alex Coughlin, and it did. He put him in a much stronger, stretching, elevated Boston Crab, forcing him to tap, and in the end, of course, they showed absolute respect for each other. Now, our next match, this is a match that many people probably expected. If you guys remember, Masha Slamovich won the Do or Die Rumble match, but Blake Christian was not too pleased with the idea of this happening. So he attacked Masha, but Masha's BF, Akira, shows up to deal with him. But now it's more like Akira would stop at nothing to get his hands on him for what he did. Now Blake Christian doesn't give a damn about what people think, just get results at any way possible, like cutting corners. That's exactly what he did. So apparently Akira did not got his revenge against him until he got stumped. And then at post match, as soon as Blake Christian won, here we go again. He put him on top of a chair to kick him to send a direct message that he is who he is. Now our next match is for the GCW Extreme Championship, we have Joey Janela defended that title, but he did not bring the title with him. He's facing against Venny, who you may all know in Japan as Asuka. So not Asuka from WWE. This is a different one. Uh, Apparently, Venny was supposed to be in the US for GCW back in 2020, but due to the situation with the pandemic, now she was able to make it. I thought this match was pretty gruesome, and you probably thought that Venny would be much of extreme, but unfortunately, it was a super brain buster by Joey Janela to pick up the win. It was a pretty good match, but in the end, Venny got what Joey Janela wanted, was a little smooch. So basically, it worked out for everyone. Now, our next match, we have Effie versus Slade. Now, Effie has been dealing with Charles Mason, and Slade is, in fact, one of his mercenaries. Now, as you know, Charles Mason will be in a match the following day to take on Alley Catch in a steel cage match. Now, you probably thought this match was going to be very difficult, but no, it took a Zack Ryder by Effie to put away. But when Charles Mason come out smoking his goddamn cigar, apparently Perro shows up and attack him, and then of course Perro was attacked by Billy Dixon. However, Charles Mason, who's a piece of garbage, decided to manipulate Dixon, telling him that he has a stronghold on him. He's saying that I'm the one who paid for your mother's medical bills. You don't think I'm capable of pulling the plug? So basically, Charles Mason, being the evilest SOB on the planet, he was able to uh, tell that, saying he owns him. But sooner or later, somehow Billy has to break away from him. But don't forget, Charles Mason will be facing Alley Catch the following day. Now, our next match, we have the GCW World Tag Team titles on the line. The Spanish announce team, Joel and Jose Maximo, take on the reigning tag team, Ciclope and Medio Extremo, Los Macizos. I thought that was pretty good. It was a pretty good tag team match. But, however, the Los Macizos applied the Spanish Fly, which is the move that both the Maximo brothers always tried on their opponents, and it worked for them. It was, of course, Miedo Extremo who picked up the pin on Jose, and it was over right from there. Now, our next match, we haven't seen this individual for quite some time. We're talking about the Sauce, Alex Zane, taking on Hijo de Vikingo. Oh, man. A lot of high spots on this particular match. A lot of high flying, a lot of movement. You know this is going to be good. But in the end, it was Hijo de Vikingo who won the match by applying the 630 onto Alex Zane. I thought it was pretty good. I was like thinking in the end of this match that Alex Zane would invite him to eat some Taco Bell with him. I'm not sure if he will be a big fan of that, but we'll see. Now, our next match, we have the GCW Ultra Violent Championship. Rina Yamashita comes back from Japan, defends it, and faces someone from who done death matches. We're talking about Casey Kirk. I thought this match was insane. Many fans were saying they should bring Suzuki involved in this type of match. I'm like, this could be definitely in her wheelhouse. Trust me, I would definitely love to see that. But man, I love this match with Casey and Rina Yamashita. Amazing match. But in the end, it was Rina Yamashita with the Splash Mountain onto Casey Kirk to pick up the win. But a note here, this is Casey Kirk's debut match in GCW. Now, her husband, Brandon Kirk, has participated in GCW before, but she never wrestled with them at all. So, good thing they brought her in. But she said her next goal since losing the ICW American Death Match would be the Ultraviolent Champion. I was like, hey, go for it, girl. Don't let anybody stop you. Now, our next match, we have Lufisto taking on Maki Ito. Now, as you know, Maki Ito, she's now a member of the MDK gang with Nick Gage. So, she was about to tell, where is my effing? And then Lufisto is not a fan of that. So, basically, she attacked. Maki Ito was not going to put up with her crap regardless. But it took at least 2 DDTs to put away Lufisto. And of course, right in the end of the match, when Maki won, of course, Nick Gage shows up, tells everybody the same thing what he always says, where's my effing gang at? So I thought it was insane, but also he gave the last few moments to Maki to say, I effing love you guys. It's MDK all, all effing day. So I thought it was a great moment. So I think Maki Ito and Nick Gage, they are a good uh, team. I think we're going to enjoy this. Now, our main event is a death match between John Wayne Murdoch and Drew Parker. Now, this is Drew Parker's last death match in the on U.S. soil. So I think he's going to be heading back to Japan. You probably can guess another brutal match when it comes to death matches. Yes, it was, but unfortunately, it was a submission by John Wayne Murdoch to pick up the win. But in the process of this match, uh, Drew Parker injured himself. He was supposed to be in the match the following day, but that did not happen. But it was a pretty good emotional match between Murdoch and Drew Parker because they love doing this stuff. But hopefully Drew Parker will be okay. But I did saw him recently. He showed some injury in the Baka and Gaijin Volume 3 event that took place recently. But hopefully he'll recover well. So I think that's pretty much it with this one, with this show, with Holy Smokes with GCW. Let's do the other one. I believe that one's called Ransom. Okay, GCW with Ransom. This took place on the 5th of March, the following day after Holy Smokes, at the Showboat at Atlantic City. Now, once again, we opened up with the six-way scramble match. Now, as I mentioned before, anything could happen. Anything could happen with who's going to win. Now, here is the competitors. There were some from the night before. So we have Jimmy Lloyd versus Yoya versus Gabriel Sky versus Carlos Ramos versus Alec Price versus Gringo Loco. Now, the night before, we had Gringo Loco won the match, which was very interesting. But however, will history repeat itself? Will Gringo Loco go 2 for 2 in this? Well, obvious question. It did not. It was that surprise kick by Alec Price onto Carlos Ramos to pick up a good win. So Alec Price won this six-way scramble match. So pretty good. Now, our next match, we have Shane Mercer versus Mike Bailey. Now, this is one of those matches. In this particular one, from what commentators mentioned, this was supposed to be Drew Parker to be involved in this, but due to the injury he had the night before, was unable. I'm sure. I think it was Shane Mercer who was not booked for this one, but nevertheless, things did went well. The only thing that Mike Bailey had to be more concerned is the moonsault battery, which is one of Shane Mercer's main weapons, which could have been the most factor. But Mike Bailey applied the ultimate weapon to pick up the win. Now, our next match, we have the GCW World Tag Team titles. We have the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabian taking on Los Macizos, Ciclope, and Miedo Extremo. I have to say this is a pretty good match, which we all know the Motor City Machine Guns. If you guys aren't fans of them, you guys know what I'm talking about. Now, those who are new, you probably say, what's so special about them? These guys have done it all. They've been with various promotion, held many championships like Impact Wrestling's titles, the Ring of Honor, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. You name them all. So that sets it all. Um, so basically, you probably thought will the Motor City Machine Guns have the GCW part of the resume? The obvious question, it did when they applied the dirty bomb onto Ciclope and picking up the win. That ended the reign for the Ciclope, but for Macizos. But Ciclope did say that they say all hail to the Kings, which of course they are the best tag team. And they said until next time. So that means we could possibly see them challenge them for the titles in the near future. Now, our next match is another death match. This time we have John Wayne Murdoch taking on Masha Slamovich. Now, keep in mind, Masha later on this month on the 17th of March will be facing Nick Gage for the GCW World Title. But first things first, she has to focus against John Wayne Murdoch. Now, you probably would say John Wayne Murdoch would have won this match, but no, it was Masha Slamovich that picked up the win. But I don't know what happened. I felt like there was a moment that was botched because there was a glass right on top of some chairs. It did not break, but it did give Masha Slamovich to pick up the win. So I don't know what happened to that, but it was kind of strange that it did happen. Now, our next match, this was a very interesting one. We have women's trios action taking place. We have team number one, the Kick Demon, Janad Kai, um, Billy Starks, and Sawyer Wreck. They take on Veni, Maki Ito, and Rina Yamashita. I have to say, it's an interesting combination to see all three of these Japanese women out. I don't think they've ever worked together before, but it was a good combination. Because we know that Veni and Rina Yamashita and Maki are freelancers, but Maki normally appears in TJP and DDT. Rina with many promotions, such as Freedoms, Ice Ribbon. As you know, she's a member of the Rebel X Enemy. And of course, Veni, we all know her reputation. So I thought it was a pretty amazing match to see all three of these Japanese women working together. But the obvious thing is who was going to walk out of this one. It was Rina Yamashita that applied the splash mount on Janai Kai to pick up the win. Now, our next match, we have the JCW Championship on the line. Jordan Oliver defends it against the one person that many fans may find concern, which is Blake Christian. Now, keep in mind, Blake Christian was involved in the Jersey J Cup, but did not make it all the way through. But, however, in this particular match, Blake Christian will stop at nothing to obtain that title. But in this case, as you know, there's a certain rule they have in GCW. Anything could happen. You can use tables and chairs. But when it comes to JCW championships, that is forbidden. Blake Christian didn't give a damn, so he got disqualified by using the chair on Jordan Oliver. And once again, Christian was about to kick him off, and then, of course, Akira shows up to confront him, and then Masha Slamovich confronted him too. So basically, Christian got away with it, but it's only a matter of time until Akira and Masha get their hands on it. But however, Masha has another date with Destiny, but this time is with Nick Gage. So basically, Nick Gage shows up telling her that that he was going to beat the crap out of her when they get to New York City. So we'll see what happens then. Now, our next match, we have the GCW Extreme Championship. Brandon Kirk faces off against Joey Janela. Once again, Joey Janela did not actually pick up bring the title again because, as always, he thought that he has it in the bag. But I thought it was a pretty good match. Not to mention, but I failed to mention this in the previous segment of Holy Smokes when Joey Janela was facing Veni. They brought in a door and the door did not break. So later they had to check if the door can be breakable. But Brandon Kirk had a better idea. Let's just break it and use it as a toy. So each was using a part of the door to whack each other. But however, it didn't do so well for him until I'm not sure exactly what Joey Janela did to finish off Brandon Kirk. He applied. It looked more either a razor's edge or a splash mountain. I couldn't tell from the angle how it was, but it got the job done. Next up, we have a four-way tag match. We have Young, Dumb, and Broke, Alice Taylor and Charlie Tiger versus Bang Bros, August Matthews and Davey Bang versus Wasted Youth, Dylan McKay and Marcus Mathers versus second year crew, Juan Called Manders and Mance Warner. Now, the match would have gone great, but all of a sudden, they were in GCW was invaded for IWS, which is a promotion out in Montreal, Canada. So they invaded, they beat up everybody. But what happens next, this is the most interesting thing. A lot of questions being asked. Mike Bailey shows up and tries to tell the guys from IWS to calm down, to stop with this crap. But Nick Gage, as you know, who doesn't like invaders coming to his turf, led the cavalry to teach the Canadians a lesson. So he goes, tells them F Canada and all this other stuff. It brings you back to the Monday Night Wars when Bret Hart, as you know, fighting against the Un-Americans, that sort of thing. But um, well, we'll see because, as you know, they just had their recent event between them, so we'll talk about that at some other time. But as for the match, it ended in a no contest, the way I see it. So anyway, our final match involves a steel cage match. I don't know if this is the final conclusion between the war between Charles Mason and Ali Catch. Now, match was in purpose to ensure nobody goes in. As you know, the last few times, Charles Mason, who's vindictive, has been trying to win his matches by using his mercenaries to do his dirty work. But Ali Catch wanted this match to happen. But once again, we saw Perro was decided to help Charles Mason, but there was a moment where they brought in the cuffs, and of course, Ali Catch overturned it. But Effie actually helped out, got rid of Perro, and then of course he got all this other things. But Ali Catch was able to, of course, how to say, handcuff um, Charles Mason in the cage. Then she brought a knife, tried to take on try to kill Charles Mason, but the knife was removed, and then Billy Dixon shows up to help out Ali Catch, but once again the manipulation from Charles Mason got to it. But Ali Catch hold on as much as possible. There was a moment where Charles Mason was about to use the knife, telling her nobody cares about her, but she overturned it by choking the life out of Charles Mason, and Charles Mason was lifeless, so the match was over. But as I said before, we're not sure if this is the final conclusion between them. So we'll see what happens then until I don't know. I think the next show will be the 17th of March because I hardly doubt that Charles Mason will be involved in the in the war between IWS and GCW. So that's my honest opinion. But we'll end it from here with the GCW stuff and move on with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Okay, New Japan Pro Wrestling as we continue with more of the New Japan Cup, but this time we're continuing with the second round matches. Now, before we get to that, let's go with what from start to finish. This took place on the 13th of March. We have Oscar Lobe teaming up with Ren Narita to take on Bullet Club's Chase Owens and Kenta. Now, you probably assume that this type of match will fall in favor with Bullet Club due to the X factor of this is Oscar Lobe, who is still a young line. Well, that kind of sets it in because I would have assumed that Chase Owens would have finished off Oscar Lobe with, of course, a Boston Crab, but no, he took him out with a high knee up to the face. I don't know if that's the C trigger or something, but it got the job done to put away Lobe. 1, 2, 3, it's over. So Chase Owens and Kenta took the victory. Next match we have, of course, is TMDK, Kosa Fujita and Zack Sabre Jr. taking on Shota Umino and Tama Tonga. Now keep in mind, Umino has a match in the second rounds with Zack Sabre Jr. And you know for a fact this is going to be interesting. Recently, Zack Sabre Jr. insulted Umino by saying negative things about his mentor John Moxley, so he's not going to take that kindly. But I can't wait to see that. But he probably guessed in this particular match that the X Factor is Kosa Fujita, despite the fact that he has been on a learning curve with Zack Sabre Jr., but it was a gun stun by Tama Tonga to put away Fujita, giving him and Umino the win. Now our next match we have is, well, let's just call it just two guys consistent of Taka Michinoku and Taichi taking on the House of Torture consistently with Sho and Yujiro Takahashi. Now you know how the House of Torture are. They love to cut corners, try to cheat to pick up the win. But there was none of that happening in this. But it was Yujiro who picked up the win by applying the pimp juice onto Taka. I mean, I would love to see just. I know this is not the first time that these two teams have come across. These two factions have come across, but unfortunately, it did not help out one way or the other. Taka ended up being on the pimp juice by Yujiro to give them a win. Now, our next match we have is, of course, the Bullet Club, consistent of Ghetto, El Fantasmo, and David Finlay taking on the United Empire, consistently with Kyle Fletcher, Aaron Henare, and Great Khan. Now, keep in mind, there's still some conflicting things going on within Bullet Club. El Fantasmo, who is basically now, I haven't said this anything yet about Bullet Club because I have been noticing it. As you know, I mentioned that David Finlay is now the new leader of the Bullet Club, but he doesn't want any more fun and games. He wants everyone to, how do I say, be serious, like take things very seriously. So I will do a discussion video about that, about the Bullet Club history of what they brought into the table. So we'll see that. But you probably would have assumed this match will fall in the favor of the United Empire. Yes, it did. Great Khan, as you know, put Ghetto in a submission, and that was it, just like that. Now, our next match we have is a. Excuse me. We have Chaos members. We have Yo and Leo Rush, Tomohiro Ishii, Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto taking on LIJ, all 5 members of LIJ. Bushi, Hiromu, Shingo, Sanada, and Naito. This is, as you know, I mentioned a preview between Leo Rush and what's his name, and Hiromu for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship, which of course it would have been great. I thought this match was pretty good, but it took only a pumping bomber by Shingo to put away Yo and giving LIJ their win. But you know for a fact that Leo Rush will stop at nothing to get his hands on Hiromu and the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. Now, our next match is part of the second rounds in New Japan. We have Evil taking on Jeff Cobb. Now, you know for a fact that Evil will stop at nothing to win the match. Now, luckily that Jeff Cobb has a little backup with him, which is, of course, the members of United Empire. But don't count out Evil yet, because House of Torture, they always have something up their sleeves. Now, you know that the House of Torture, Dick Togo, the spoiler, that moron, is always there. Now, when Henare and Fletcher finally caught on to the fool, they were about to carry him until they were knocked out by the other members of the House of Torture, Sho and Yujiro. But however, Evil is not taking any chances with one particular person, and that is the Great Khan, who was doing commentary. Evil handcuffed him. Now, Great Khan wasn't going to do a damn thing, but if it was necessary, he probably would have done it. So he was unable to get out. Uh, all 4 members of the House of Torture took out Jeff Cobb until Evil tried to something everything is evil to give him the win. Now you know that down the line, the United Empire are not going to let this go. That Evil got away with it. Now the idea, what they want, is for somehow the United Empire to win the New Japan Cup. But Evil will stop at nothing to get what he wants. Now, our next match, we have a bit of a United Empire showdown between Mark Davis of Aussie Open and leader of the United Empire, Will Ospreay. Now, you probably thought this match was going to be a good one. I have to say it did. But, however, it was the hidden blade by Will Ospreay to pick up the win. I thought it was pretty good. But in the end, Will Ospreay did state in the post-match promo that the one who's gonna definitely win is gonna be him. Now he is a few. He is a few that many would say could win it. Now there's others that could say probably Sonata, others Naito, Uh, the list goes on, but we'll see what happens then. So we'll see what happens in the next round. We'll continue with more of the second rounds after that. But right now, let's just end it right here and move on with AEW Dark Elevation. Okay, AEW Dark Elevation opened up with Ami Sakura taking on Zyra. Now, you probably can guess this match ends with Ami Sakura, which unfortunately it did. Now, one of her main weapons she's been using mostly since joining AEW was, of course, the moonsault. That never seems to fail her. So, she won by that. Next match, we have Jake Hager versus Levi Shapiro. Uh, this I don't know when was the last time he's ever been on Dark Elevation, but Jake Hager did win his match by applying a submission. I don't know what it's called. It's like where you have the opponent chokehold underneath the armpit. You got them under the armpit, try to choke them out, like using their head. And Shapiro had no other choice but to tap. But that gave the win to Jake Hager for the W. Next up, we got Marina Shafir taking on Mighty Myra. You probably can guess. Oh man, I don't know how many submissions Marina does in this particular when she does Dark Elevations, but it was a very interesting one I've ever seen. I never seen this type of submission where she has her like all tied up in right in the middle of the air, and of course, Mighty Myra had no other choice but to tap out. Now, this next match, I have to say it was a pretty good one. Now, this one is between Brian Cage and Jack Cartwheel. If I was Tony Khan, I would pay attention to this guy. This guy has a unique sense of style in the ring when it comes to being athletic. Uh, I think this was one of my favorite matches with Jack Cartwheel making an appearance in AEW Dark Elevation. But unfortunately, Brian Cage applied his submission move. Still, I don't know what he calls it, but it did allow him to pick up the win. Next match, we got the Butcher and the Blade taking on Vinny Masario and Midas Creed. Um, Once again, as you know, they Butcher and the Blade picked up the win by applying some sort of combination move, where it's like a mixture of the power bomb and sitting power bomb and the um, neck breaker, giving them the win. And then, of course, our next match is the ROH Women's Title Proving Grounds match. Athena versus what's her name? Inder Mundi, I think that's her name. But you can guess this match end with Athena winning the match. But here we go again with her attitude attacking her opponents right after the match. That's how she's always been. Next up, we got the best friends, Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor, taking on um, Olumdi and Starboy Charlie. You probably can guess this match ends with the best friends winning the match when they put away Starboy Charlie, and that was it. Now, our main event, we have the Wingmen, Peter Avalon and Ryan Meneth, taking on the Lucha Brothers, Penta and Phoenix. This match, you probably can guess, this one ends with Phoenix and Penta winning the match with this unknown combination that we've seen many times, but they never mentioned what's called. But nonetheless, we know that right now the Lucha Brothers are preparing for their upcoming match. As you know, they'll be involved in the Reach for the Sky ladder match in Ring of Honor. So I wouldn't be surprised if they won it because they would add ROH tag team titles in their resume. So I think that's pretty much it with AEW Dark Elevation. I believe it's time for news updates. Okay, welcome to our news updates. Now, as you know, we have the Freelance Summit by NOMADS for Volume 3, who we haven't seen for quite some time. As you know, this will take place in Jujuku Face on April 14th. As you know, this is the last match that we will feature, that will be seeing Jung Kiona until she goes on her indefinite hiatus to recover from her knee injury. However, they announced the matches that will be in participating in this one. So I'm going to go in order to tell you guys what match will be taking place. Match number one, we have Rina Amakura teaming up with her Colors teammate Yuko Sakurai to take on Kaho Kobayashi and Kakeru Sekiguchi. Second match, we got Surumi Natsu teaming up with Cherry, who is debuting for the first time, taking on Momoka Anazono and Marika Kobashi. I'm pretty sure this is Marika Kobashi's debut as well. Third match is a singles match. We got Miyuki Takase taking on Makoto. Semi-final match is a three-way tag match. We got Mayu Hiki and Sareee Inoi, who have been teaming recently. They take on Tai Hamna and Maika Ozaki versus the other members of Colors, Saki and Hikari Shimizu. And for our main event is a trios match. We have Jungle Kiona teaming up with Hiroyo Matsumoto and Yu. They take on Rina Yamashita, Nanane Takahashi, and Ryo Mizunami. So this is going to be a very good match event, I'm pretty sure. Now, as you know, we've been covering a lot of the WrestleCon event shows where we saw the participation. Apparently, I might have missed a few names, but here's the names that are going to participate in this event. We have Deonna Purrazzo, Harley Cameron, Tasha Steelz, Steph Delander, Diamond Dallas Page, or as we know him, DDP, Lena Fanene, known as Nia Jax, Brian Keith, Mil Muertes, Pentagon, The Kingdom, Ryback, and Jacob Fatu. So I was surprised that to hear Ryback was in there. I know he's been recently not been getting a lot of love from some people recently, but yeah. But I'm very happy for some people that are going to be there. Now, a very interesting thing. Someone tweeted this. Apparently, if you guys know, Miyu Yamashita will be after the events of WrestleMania. She'll be staying here in the States for another 3 months from June. Apparently, she's already been booked for some championship matches since then. We have the multiverse event that will be taking place for the Knockouts tag team titles. She'll be facing against Mickie James, the current Knockouts champion, versus Deonna Purrazzo and Giselle Shaw. Then after that, she'll be heading for CCW for Dead Zone on the 15th of April for the CCW Women's title to take on in a three-way Killer Kelly and Kylan King. Then after that, she'll be heading to Seattle on the 8th of April. Well, before that, it's for the women's title against Vert Vixen for Defy the Realist. And then finally, the West Coast Pro home of Killer. She'll be facing Masha Slamovich, the current West Coast Pro Women's Champion. So I was like, wow, can't believe she's involved in title matches. As you know, she has 2 of them. So now, speaking of Defy, Defy Wrestling announced for the Realist show taking place on the 8th of April. Nick Wayne will be challenging Swerve for the Defy Championship. This is going to be a good one. Now, Prestige Wrestling updates for the Nervous Breakdown event. First time ever, as you know, as I mentioned, Miyu Yamashita. Yamashita will be in the first time facing off Tail Valkyrie. This one will take place on the 31st of March. And then after that, for another Prestige Wrestling, that was announced, Sean Spears, making his debut with Prestige, will be facing against Filthy Tom Lawler. House of Glory has announced for their final hour event that will be taking place on the 14th of April. The House of Glory Crown Jewel title will be defended. That Sick Evil SOB Charles Mason will be facing off against Leo Rush. Sareee has made a very interesting announcement, as you know, since she announced that she's no longer with NXT, moved back to Japan. Sareee, the Warrior of the Sun, made a very interesting comment. Let me pull it up real quick. On this one, I think you guys may find it very interesting. Um, she said this. Stardom is not the only Yoshi Puroresu promotion. I want to make wave to the current situation. I'm very interested in the IWGP Women's Title. I deserve to wear the belt. Well, if I was New Japan, I wouldn't pass up the opportunity if that was the case. So yeah, so we'll see what happens then. Now, for any of you who are big fans of Baka Gaijin and Friends, they announced for another event for Volume 4. But they announced for a few participants, first time ever being involved. We have Seiji Takeda, um, Rina Yamashita, Balinaki, and Sayaka. So I'm very surprised that these are the first time being in there. Um, for our GCW updates, I can feel my face taking place on the 15th. The Injustice Express, consisting of Myron Reed, Jordan Oliver, and Nick Gage, will be facing off against Ringo Loco, Aries, and Commander. And then, of course, we have the Red Means Green on the 16th. Bussy, Ali Catch, and Effie will be facing off against Doug Gilbert and Tommy Rich. Um, as you know, there was a recent thing where Stardom announced for like I'm not sure if there was they said they kind of mistaken what they called it an emergency press conference, but they decided to change to call it an impromptu press conference. Well, as you know, Himeka has announced her retirement. Matches are being set. Apparently, this is the thing. April 23rd will be her last official match with Stardom, but on April 28th will be a special um, match, but outside of Stardom, which is, of course, with Pro Wrestling Wave. Now, some of you may question, wait a minute, why would she want to wrestle there? Well, this is something she wanted. She said she felt indebted with Pro Wrestling Waves uh, for her start. It will be in Shinjuku Face, but her opponent is yet to be announced. But as soon as we get closer and closer to that, we'll find out. Now, for our last thing, we're going to talk about updating. Some fans are taking a huge criticism over Jim Cornette on what he said about Rio. Now, if you guys don't know what's going on with Rio, I made a report about Rio deactivating her Twitter account due to the fact of bullying, racism, and harassment. However, Jim Cornette took this very. He thinks it's funny because apparently, from what his host is saying, his partner, whoever is helping them out, saying that many fans believe Jim Cornette was highly responsible for Rio deactivating her her Twitter account. Now, Jim Cornette took this like it's not an insult, but more like a laughter. You know, like he thinks it's funny that he's getting the credit that he's the one who started this mess, and that sort of thing. And of course, they're comparing the situation that's going on with Rio to what happened to Hana Kimura. I mean, I feel the problem is, you know, I know Jim Cornette is not a fan of Rio because he doesn't think that someone like her should be a wrestler and all that. I know he made a lot of negative comments when it comes to the AEW Women's division, and I feel like they made some bad comments about what they thought was going on. I mean that's the thing. Um, there is that you can see that on YouTube you can hear that on YouTube on this podcast. But yeah, that's what I've been hearing. So I just wish these guys can just shut the hell up, because this is not fun and games here, guys. Look, I mentioned this before. Do we really need another repeat for what happened to Hana Kimura? The answer to that is hell to the no. We don't need that crap. But I find it that they think that Jim Cornette thinks it's funny because he's getting credit for something that he didn't do, but he thinks it's funny. It's not funny, homeboy. You know, look, we know that Kenny mentioned that Rio has been getting criticized for this, and I understand it. But Rio is who she is. But all we can do is support Rio no matter what as fans. So that's all I can say right now. So for now, I'm gonna say this, that we ended right here, and we just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up for the next one we have, of course, is Tuesday Wrestling, NWA Power, AEW Dark, and NXT. I haven't decided there's going to be another review before that, but I'll keep you guys apprised. Uh, as you know, in Japan, it's already the 14th of March. There's going to be the All Japan Wrestling show. I'm mostly curious about the match that Unagi is going to be involved with her ally Saki, and of course Yoshitatsu taking on Suwama, and when he teams up with Mayumi Ozaki and Mayuhiki. So I'm kind of curious. I'll put that on the Unagi Sayaka watch as soon as possible. I'm just gonna have to write down everything that I know of what's been going on. So it's gonna be interesting. But for now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang!